and I said it was working, and I jinxed myself. Let's get into presentation mode. Let's try this again. All right, this is the same stuff. Yeah, I grew up on the back of the rig. I love teaching. I love being part of this industry, and I love coming to the shows and learning from everybody that has more experience than me or different experience than me. We're just awesome. There's nothing more spiritual than making water come out of the ground. There's not a greater feeling, making resources and finding geotechnical data or defining where like emerging contaminant is going. We progress civilization. So if you got questions, just ask. Usually I'm there, and I encourage that we stand up and say, I don't believe that, or this is my perspective. We can still do that. I can hear you. I have my cell number on there, which is at the end of all my driller articles. So you could text me, got my phone in my back pocket. You can email me. You could hit me up on one of the Facebook groups, and we'll get to your question. So hiring, training, retaining that 21st century employee, that driller, where do we come from? I love the saying, experience is what you get when you didn't get what you wanted. Hey, Brock, do you want to take on this project? It's going to be a good experience. We learn in those situations of failure and overcoming something or coming to a different perspective. And those experiences is what inspired me to continue to be in the industry. Sitting around the Thanksgiving table when you're in Michigan, it's not like you're excited about the Lions playing, because it's really just who else is going to get another win. We're talking about the war stories of plugging that 350 gallon a minute artesian, or how we overcame limited site access, those type of things. That's what got me excited about wanting to be part of my father's company and then moving on and working in the rest of the industry. Experience is knowledge. We got the Groundwater and Wells book. We have the Australian Drilling Manual. We got the Missouri Groundwater Handbook. Maybe the only good thing to come from Missouri. Sorry, Missouri. Good thing we're in Wyoming, right? But most of our knowledge is right here and right here. And it's learned on the back of the rig. And we've kind of evolved beyond that blue collar, in the field, getting that rewarding feeling of making water come out of the ground. Our other generations have gone off and done other things now. And we got to get to the root of that. We have this age gap. I'm 41, been in the industry all my life. I'm still called the kid. There's going to be a time when I'm going to be the old man. I want to be the middle-aged guy. So we got to get some more 20-year-olds in there, some Gen Zs, these alphas. Experience is what we use to discover the unknown. So where is our next generation? Where are they? Let's talk about it. 2019, this was pretty much the need not apply, long-haired, freaky people. We talk about today's youth refuses to work. It's muddy, it's cold, it's unpredictable hours. We can't afford those college graduates because they have visions of becoming management without putting in the years. If I'm investing in another $1 million worth of equipment, and I know somebody invested their time for 4 years to learn the sciences, learn the trades, wants to be part of this industry, we got to figure out how we grab them and keep hold of them. Because the oil field, the mining industries, geology, geoscience, they're grabbing them and they're not letting them go. New hires don't want to apply to work in the drilling industry anymore. Why? We got to look right here. We need to start looking within. Treated our sons and daughters one way, and the neighbor kid and our nephews. And when it was all about family, we had a different perspective of training and how we were going to do things. And now here we are, and we have to figure out how we bring in that next generation. They just don't want to stay. We put in a few weeks worth of training or a few months and they're gone. What is happening there? And if I teach them, they will go out and start their own business. If we don't teach them, who's going to maintain our business? Who's going to maintain our customers? Who's going to be there in 20 years? we're we're in dire straits when it comes to this. You look at the farming industry right now and how many major commercial farms have happened. You know, all those young men and women from the farming industry are working for Farm Bureau or have gone on to work for the Bureau of Land Management. You know, and you look at the Masons, there's just so many trades that we have to figure out how to pass this knowledge on and inspire. So it's 2022. Saw this ad. Long-haired freaky people. Hey, if you pass that test, you can drive that big truck with a real CDL. I guess most of these rigs now are coming with, you know, an automatic. So if they got a CDL, it's one step up on them. But, you know, if they can be reliable and they want to show up and they have an alternative lifestyle that's long hair and freaky on the weekend, we need them. And they want to have purpose and they want to work in the water and resources industry. So the reality is all of our generations, you know, my grandfather would always say, all of our generations have great performers and all generations have this guy. And it didn't play. I guess we could say he's working smarter. He's got good form. So, of course, we have those people, and we have to figure out how to motivate them or explain they're not right for our industry. It's all about aligning our expectations. And I know that's getting harder, and the workforce is not what they used to be. But how do we build that back? And so, you know, our traditional recruitment, nepotism. Hey, I was told you're gonna dig ditches and then shovel the pit. And one day you'll get to stand on the back of the rig, but you're stuck here, son. And then the housing market crashed. 9/11 happened. The housing market. I went off to college because Michigan went from drilling 40,000 water wells a year to 13,000 in 4 years, you know, and it just suddenly, I was doing business classes at night, learning the books so that I could be a better businessman as a groundwater professional. And I said, Dad, you can't afford to have my older brother, my younger brother, and our 5 employees. It's just not working for us right now. And I think I can go to college September to April and be home for our busy season, and I'm not going to be far away. So, you know, we started seeing sons and daughters leaving. You know, we used to have word of mouth, the coffee shop, that farm kid, he ought to come work for us. He already knows how to weld. He knows how to run heavy equipment. He's reliable. He loves the fact that he's got water for his, you know, cattle and corn. He's inspired. You know, drilling stories like I talked about. That's how we got the neighbor kid, because he saw the big rig come back and how we talked about that 500 gallon a minute well where we thought we were only going to get 50 in the local paper. Anybody getting a local paper these days? Where are all the farm kids? So this next generation, you know, it's crazy right now. I'm teaching this from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and we can get on Zoom calls and we can have a perspective of who we're going to be interviewing in person if that's the way we want to approach it. But, you know, so now we have to use social media. We got to look at those online hiring websites. And I mean, Indeed, I've seen the candidates that come through. I just talked to an industry leader in HR for a large drilling company, and she said it's about 50 applications to get to 10 candidates to narrow down to 2. I mean, we have to grab people and keep them. You know, job fairs. high school job fairs, trade schools are back. Gen Zs love working with their hands. They're entrepreneurs. They're learning how to weld. They're learning woodworking. Technical schools, same thing. College interns can't afford that college kid. That college kid needs to learn on the back of a rig so he can become a good geoscientist or a geologist or a hydrogeologist. And you never know, he might just fit and stay. You know, in the military, that is our greatest untapped resource. We have the 819th Red Horse Unit that's at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. You know, you got Nellis Air Force Base with the 820, and we got Herbert and the 823rd. All of those men and women are running 50Ks and hammers and large compressors and big mud pumps and tri-flow solids control units, and they love this industry. If you got any idea that you'd like to hire, you know, a hero in a helmet, you know, get him a hard hat or her a hard hat, I can get you in contact with them. And then there is hire heroes and hard hats for helmets programs. And those are great places because they're ready. And that's really what happened. You know, we saw 9/11 happen, and that entire generation that wanted to work with their hands went off and fought a war. So we got to inspire them first. We got to figure out how to do guerrilla marketing. Anybody ever do a touch a truck? I see these all over my town. I've seen them in Houston. I've seen them all over the place. It's where large construction companies and garbage trucks and dump trucks and everything show up at a high school parking lot. And they have the kids show up and they get to honk the horn and they get to walk around them. And I just recently heard a story where a father was there, and it was in the middle of COVID, and it was something they could do outside. And he's looking at this rig, and he goes, man, it'd be fun to run something like this. And the owner walked around the corner and said, you want to fill out an application? We just have to start thinking about how we inspire, because there's, again, nothing more awesome than making water come out of the ground. You know, and anywhere, best story I've heard about recruiting two great drillers was at a county fair. It was a combine demolition derby. These two, I don't want to call them kids because they're men now. These two kids were right up there in the runners up. They're in the back of the pit. They're hammering, they're smashing, they're getting this combine back ready to go for the final round. And a well driller stepped out of the grandstands, walked over there, and he goes, you guys ever think about being well drillers? And he hired both of them on the spot, and they're still there. So we got to have that elevator pitch. I would ask yourself, what would you do if you weren't a driller? And if you just said I'd be a millionaire, we all chuckle about that. But really, I can't imagine doing anything else in my career at this point. You know, because without us drilling water first, civilization doesn't progress. You look at the photo behind me in my background, and that was north of Phoenix, a huge farmland area that we were drilling a bunch of wells in the 50K. And we pull up and you look and there's a swimming pool and it's all dried out and there's some palm trees. And I asked the property owner when he picked up this land, and he goes, you know what? Something happened and we lost a fuel oil tank over there. The well got contaminated and the site became unusable. No water, no oasis in the middle of the desert. You know, so it very much is, we progress civilization by discovering the unknown. If it's water, if it's resources, if it's geotechnical data, if it's defining where that PFAS plume is going, that's us. You know, and we've put the investment in on the equipment. It's pretty cool what we do. I'm too fat to be an astronaut. So, you know, I don't want to go underwater in a submarine. So short of doing what we do right now, there isn't a greater frontier to be part of. So let's talk generations. We have the greatest multi-group of generations working together than we ever have before, from technology to, you know, the boomers and all of the knowledge and information and everything that they've given us. We got to understand how Gen Zs and millennials and X's think. So I think about, my heroes who my grandfather talked about, who my father talked about, and who said this: a good plan violently executed right now is far better than a perfect plan executed next week. As I duck as that 18-inch pipe wrench slams against the pump hoist. Patton, right? Greatest generation. Man, how about this one? You do what you do. You do what you can for as long as you can. And when you finally can't, you do the next best thing. You back up, but you don't give up. This man would have been a driller if he hadn't been a test pilot and a fighter pilot and helped start the space program and everything he did in the skies. If you ever get a chance to read his books or listen to some of the interviews with him, it was all about discovering the unknown, and he always had plan B. And I feel many drillers that I've met over the years, into their 80s, retirement, or sometimes they don't ever retire and they just one day don't get out of the rocking chair anymore. They did it because you do it for as long as you can because you love it. How about this? We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And we jump from the greatest generation to the boomer generation in Vietnam and Korea and all of those situations into Iran. And our perspectives in the trades changed. We went from the builder generation to the explorer generation into technology. And where do we go from here? Your most unhappy customers are the greatest source of your learning. Bill Gates. Then we jump to Gen Z to millennials. I get lumped into Gen Z as a 1980 baby. And then there's times that I see another article and it says, no, you're a millennial. And I take offense to that because I'm proud to realize that I didn't have a cell phone until I was 19, or the internet was the final semester of high school is when it came to my small town. But, Generation Z, or Generation X, excuse me, went off to college, went off to Wall Street, started looking at technology. There were so many things that changed in those decades, from, video games, deaf to outdoor activities. Nintendo made me fat. I should sue them. Maybe McDonald's though. VCR recording, deaf to commercials. Cable TV, local information ads, video killed the radio star, right? All of these things bookended during Gen X. Blogging online, death to the newspaper. Again, we look at it, and even the magazine I write for that I love to death had to convert to digital because it is the future, and publishers are just printing companies aren't as widely available. There's a paper shortage. There's so many things happening that sustainability, we're moving away from those tangible things to the digital. Online shopping, local sales, death to the malls. For the Gen Zs in there, and maybe the youngest of the millennials, a mall was a thing I went to go get my tennis shoes and Christmas shop and those type of things. Now we have some outdoor malls. We have big things like that, but we don't have what I grew up with that camaraderie and whatnot. Everyone went to college. Everyone goes into debt because it was sexy to go be in Wall Street. You look at the movies, you look at the race cars, you look at everything that's happening in this generation, and it's saying you need to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to have sports cars and this extravagant lifestyle. And we walked away from drill rigs. So the millennial force, what caused our hiring issue? I truly believe it was 9/11, and that choice right then, along with the housing market crash and all of those new housing builds start, we had the really good ones stood up and decided to go fight for their country. And the ones that wanted to be here, we slowed down and we started to lay off. We had to right size our family businesses, and then they were gone. One thing we need to say is Millennials are 39, 40 years old now. So it's not the millennials' fault. It's not the millennials we're working for. Actually, it is the millennials we're working for. It's just the ones that we worked with are here. The rest of them have gone on to become doctors and lawyers and such. Now that I'm quoting, Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't grow up to be drillers. Maybe. So, they were the watcher generation. They had smartphones much sooner than me. Information was readily available. There was that perspective of being able to go out of your small town and have purpose. It's insane that we continue to say they're lazy and they're hard to communicate with when we have so many different ways to communicate with them today.
Right.
The biggest thing with the millennials is they're our greatest recruiters for two reasons. They're our largest customer base for new housing and for projects and who we're working with. And second, the ones that stayed, we need to know what inspired them to stay and figure out how we do that again for Z and Alpha. Generation Z. How many of your grandkids out there, your nieces, your nephews, your children play Minecraft? Greatest disservice we ever did as a construction and drilling industry is not grab Minecraft and say, why don't you have a water well drilling edition? Why don't you have a construction edition? Those children that are playing these games are building and designing and creating and deciding how to lay out a village or a project or a mission. And that's project management. That's planning. That's exactly the type of people we need to think about. They're the generation that watched their parents struggle with a housing market crash. They grew up with every answer at their fingertip positively. If we hire a Gen Z and we say, I'll tell you later, or you don't need to know that information, they're surely going to find it on their smartphone and get that information. So we either get to lend that knowledge to them so that they progress the way we want, or they're going to get it from Billy's blog on water well maintenance. They're doing Uber and Lyft. When it was a snowstorm and I was out of town in December in Minnesota working on a project, I Venmo'd the neighbor kid to shovel my sidewalk so that my wife, where we have a 3 and a 5-year-old, and she needed to get to work, the neighbor kid came and did it. I would have never thought about that. And then he texts me back and he goes, hey, you need me to shovel it tomorrow? And I go, absolutely. So, they are motivated and they're very creative and they can help us figure out alternative ways to sell things and perspectives and what's going to be important for that next, purchasing group of people that we have. They're fully indoctrinated into technology. And as we look at our new drill rigs and GPS and all of the online apps that are possible and GIS, it's invaluable to have them on our workforce, and they're motivated. So what do we need to do to hire these kids? Got to go look right here and realize that we're not hiring our son or our neighbor, that we have to become warmer and fuzzier. The millennials and the Gen X's, the largest generations of, parents that got divorced. So they're already used to dysfunction and parents trying to work harder. That's why we ended up with all of these kids that got trophies and things. We were overcompensating for, what happened at home. And so now they want recognition. They need to know they've done a good job. And that's not something that I remember my father and grandfather saying a lot, which made it a heck of a lot more rewarding to me when it was said. But, it really comes down to, we're going to have to figure out how to grab them and hold on to them, because we just don't have enough tough ones anymore. We have to make them tough. Like I said, they're good at cell phones and GPS and adopting new technology. They're very competent in online learning, for any of the CEUs and, certifications, statements of qualifications we need for cathodic or something outside of water well. They're great to be the one to get the documents and then bring it together to the team and start having that discussion along with shoveling the pit. They want purpose. So who's my ideal candidate? Anybody that's humble, hungry, and smart. Humble being little ego, focusing more on their teammates than themselves. It's hard. Drillers, we have to have egos. We have our driller ego. It's what forces us to have the confidence to make that microsecond decision to come off bottom, slow rotation. You know, that spidey sense, we can't second guess that. And that's perfect for discovering the unknown and running a rig, just like a test pilot, just like Jaeger. But it's not perfect for grabbing and inspiring a workforce that we don't have right now. So we truly do have to figure out, what is it going to take to inspire them and understand that it's going to be a different perspective than we had before. Hungry. They have a strong work ethic, are determined to get things done, contribute any way they can. My first expectations when I meet a new hire, I say, you're going to be muddy. You're going to be wet. You're going to miss lunch. These are things that are going to happen. You're going to see water come out of the ground and a homeowner come outside and smile and say thank you because they were out of water, or how excited they are because now they can continue that new house build because water's life. You know, that's that thing that's inspired us to be part of it. And smart, I don't need intellectually smart. I just need them to be able to understand the processes and us to be able to advocate our expectations and how those processes are going to be. Because again, that Wall Street generation, the Gordon Geckos, as they were at Wall Street, they hired somebody. Craigslist showed up because that was an easy way to get a handyman to put up a bookshelf. So why should we expect a Gen Z, a youngest of the millennials, to understand how we want to lay out a job? They're a blank slate because many of their parents were not doers. There are some that are out there and they're, you know, a diamond in the rough, but we have to realize where they're coming from if we want to have them in our industry. You know, onboarding, this is the big one. Expectations. Because with that dang smartphone that we have that makes us smart, it also changes priorities and urgency. So having a new hire that has a new fiance, you know, male or female, vice versa, and we're on a job and suddenly their demeanor changes, and you take that moment and you go, driller ego's going back in my back pocket. What's going on? I told them I'd be home at 6:30 because we were going to have dinner with their professor or whatever. You know, the drilling industry for us has been, we provide water no matter what. Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, 4 o'clock in the morning so that we can get the cattle back, you know, to being able to be milked. It's what's been part of our industry. It's an expectation, but if we don't explain it to them that way, we can't do it. I had this situation, great young man came to work for me. I picked up drilling pretty quickly. I'd say in the first 6-7 months, we're on the back of the rig and we're on a really tough job. And it was 2.5 hours from the shop. And really, we should have probably grabbed a hotel, but everybody wanted to be home every night. So we were working long hours. He was a ball of fire Monday through Thursday, 2 p.m. And he goes, hey, Brock, are we going to be home by 6 tonight? And I go, I don't think so, buddy. You know, we just started developing. We want to make sure we get the mud out of this hole. You know, everything that we know in our guts about making a good productive drilling, a good productive well, getting all that mud out, making sure we got, you know, the capacity we want, making sure it clears up. The next day we can come back, but you know, we're gonna play with it a little later. And he just deflated. And at 4:30, I go, hey, what's going on? He goes, well, it's softball night. And I've been playing softball. You know, we've never had an issue where we've been this far out of town. I can even usually make it by the 3rd inning, but it sounds like I'm not going to make it at all. And everybody's counting on it. Other colleague of ours out in the field had been with the company 10 years laughs. And he goes, it's It's just a game. But this generation, especially after this crazy virus that's come through, they're working to live, not living to work. And if we can't figure out that balance and say, I recognized what happened and I won't let it happen again, you know, it's those expectations, the travel expectations when we're out of town, when we're on a big project and we need to work Saturday and Sunday, you know, or we get out of town and we're away from our family and immediately we're working 7 to 7 or 7 to 8 to get back home. And they still want to be done by 5:30 or 6 o'clock and go get a dinner and explore the small town they're in or whatever. It's just a different perspective and priority that we got to at least have enough empathy to recognize it. Then it comes to right here, how we're going to handle it. You know, it's skills expectations. What do we want out of them in the first 6 months of working for us? They don't have a CDL. And we say, we expect you to have a CDL. 3 weeks in, have we checked back in with them? Hey, how's that going? What have you learned so far? Do you want to jump in this truck in the back of the yard and see what you got going on? You want to do an inspection with me? You know, I think we get so focused on providing that water for the next project that we forget that being raised in this industry or being in this industry for multiple decades, that generations have changed. I mean, have you tried to watch Saturday morning cartoons? If you can find them, they are weird, you know, so you got to understand the generation that we're now trying to hire, you know, and then collaboration. When they ask, why do we do it this way? Because we always do it that way, dummy. It's not, again, father and sons didn't do that. Fathers and daughters, you know, mothers and sons, whoever's on the back of the rig, you know, we were raising our next generation and now we've hired it and we have to have that same perspective of raising if we're going to get there. And then promotion. It's, you know what, you're going to be a helper until Brian dies and he's a smoker. So, and he's got a bad lifestyle. So you'll probably in the next 8 to 15 years get to be on the back of the rig. That's a horrible joke. That's not our succession plan. That's not our promotion plan. We have to say, what do you want to learn? Hop up on the back of the rig and run this rod in this, you know, rock. Get them excited. Get them feeling that vibration on the platform. You know, it's crazy. Doing this presentation, not live in front of all of you and laughing and, you know, whatever else, watching whomever shaking their head saying this guy's an idiot. It's very much like drilling from that table drive, that first table drive I ran, to jumping on the back of, you know, one of the electric over hydraulic rigs and how the floating sub changed versus the chatter, because I don't have any of that going on. I can hear a couple coughs, but you know, that feel's not there. And that's the difference, you know? And so now we have this new generation, getting them up there to feel the vibrations, getting to, you know, bring the rod back up to run a wiper run or whatever, is the difference between inspiring them to be here with us and them having just a job. Ask them, hey, would you want your friends to work here? The response will be surprising. And we got to talk succession plan. So training that next generation, there's endless online videos, there's endless articles. NGWA has fantastic resources. The Driller has Drill EDU, fantastic resources. There's endless information out there, and we need to direct them towards the right information and not to Joe Bob's blog on, you know, jet pump repair, because that's not the perspective we want. So, you know, OSHA, there's a ton of great resources within our states and federal videos talking about confined spaces and excavation and struck bys and hoisting. And sure, we don't fall into many of the categories because we try to stay general industry, and then sometimes we're construction and we jump back and forth depending on the large project we're on. But it's still good for us to have the right perspective. And that's a good way for them to understand the risks. If I'm going to train this next generation, the first thing I'm talking about is how dangerous this project is. And the fact that I'm happy that I have all my fingers and that I didn't have to learn that lesson that hard way. Of course, I have smashed fingers and, broken pinky from getting complacent, running a cat head with gloves on in the winter. I've had my share of near misses, but it's giving them that expectations, and getting them the right information to get them excited more, and then company training. Do we have a safety program or do we have a safety facade? Safety facade is we've filled out all the paperwork. We have what we need to submit if we're going to do that big project. We have the, hey, don't do that. But have we really talked about, as we're running that rig and that large clay ribbon comes up and you reach down or you grab that shovel and you just grab it and drag it out, did he just see me do that? And is he going to try that too? And, I know a guy that tore his shoulder doing that. He watched another guy do it for years and just thought it was the way to do it. What are our standard operating procedures? We get this new hire in. We lay projects out differently. Every job is different. That's one of the things we love about the industry. But we lay this job out differently and they don't get the process. We got to have consistency. We got to figure out how to explain when we're on this project, this is why we're laying these things out. What is my path of egress off the rig if there's a catastrophic failure? Do we both have a path? Those are the expectations. And then getting muddy. Obviously, I was the kid that got reprimanded for getting my, Sunday school clothes dirty playing in mud puddles. And I think that's why I loved working for Bayreuth so much. But really, man, this job is fun because we're allowed to be muddy. And it's one of those great things. Now, on the other hand, when I first started dating my wife and she came to live with me for the summer and she threw a pair of my jeans in that had copper coat on them. And then it was on the inside of the washer and the dryer. She didn't think drilling was fun or muddy or whatever that stuff was. So it's a culture change. And I know this isn't what we want to hear. And I can even hear my grandfather and my father going, we're not ready, but we got a huge gap in our workforce. And again, I don't want to go from kid to old man, but I know we're going to have a bigger demand now with the infrastructure bill, all the water well projects, geothermal, cathodic. There's just so much going on. We need everybody we can. And that means we're going to have to figure out what in our culture we have to change, So we got to create opportunities for collaboration and competition. Don't assume that our new hires haven't already started researching or they're on the water well guys or the groundwater professionals or drillers tribe Facebook groups asking questions, the geotechnical. There's so many people out there that are ready to share. We got to make sure it's good information and it's where we want to go from here. So we need to know what our job process is going to be. If they come up with an idea, or heck, we were running normal tongs that my grandfather had run, and new hire goes, hey, have you ever seen these clamp style tongs? And we were running a lot of PVC on a project for cathodic. We were running Trinity. I said, no. He goes, do you think we could get some? My colleague goes, no, what works, man. And, as I'm driving in the truck, I was like, damn, he just had a moment of wanting us to do something better or asking to be part of this company more than just a paycheck. And we shut him down. So we went out and got a set. It worked. They worked great. It for that application, I wouldn't want to do it with, inch and a quarter steel, but it was the right time. So, beyond creating, we got to get into what are their special skill sets? What excites them? What can make our business better? They've been developing special skills from the time that they start getting parented by iPad, because I don't know how many times you've had that long road trip where you go, are we here? Are we there yet? When are we going to be there? And suddenly you're handing them a phone or an iPad these days. I have no idea. It's probably why I sat in the way back on our road trips with the family, so Dad couldn't reach me. He never did that. But, they've had an iPad. My son plays construction games. My daughter creates. You know, these are things that could be part of our business when it comes to as-builts and whatnot. We need to know, are they good with drones? Could we be doing site assessment with drones? There's so many things that we can unlock with this next generation, and they'll feel like they're part of that family business. Find ways to overcome their weakness. And obviously we saw the guy, he didn't touch a single jack bag. And I know if that was 20 years ago, at the end of that project, somebody would have handed him the shovel and said, you're getting all of them, you know, stuck in the mud by yourself, probably improperly lifting. But why? Hey, Brian, what's up? You didn't touch a single thing. You're just running around in a circle. Well, I didn't want to get in the way, or what's going on? You know, we have to have the difficult conversations immediately instead of it being 3 months in and us going, you're just not going to work out. And then that smartphone, we've talked about this, the apps, safety, the communication, good decision-making. I remember going out on a 22W to do screen jobs. I'm 16 years old. I got a helper that's 19 years old, but doesn't want to run the rig, is scared to run the rig. No cell phones. Something goes wrong, I knock on the door, and hopefully somebody at the house is home and I can call. And if I call, maybe I get dad, maybe I don't. You know, it's so now we have that learning curve. We can call on this invisible phone that I'm holding up and have that discussion, or we can start that discussion immediately, a default to trust, and realize that we can overcome projects that we couldn't before. So how are we going to retain them? That experience is knowledge, you know, understanding what happened, you know, understanding that we've been built on tribal knowledge. Everything that we know is here. It's really hard to find it. There's some articles, Wayne Nash did awesome articles, Porky. There's so many people out there that are gone that we're giving back. We need to be giving back. We need to be giving our teams as much information as possible, not only because they become better and more competent for us, but we can go on to learn the next thing. If they know how to do what we know, then we can progress. You know, establish a training program, establish milestones, establish what you want out of this person. It's too tough to hear that we spent all this time, we got this guy hired, we got him on payroll, and he was there 30 days. What happened? We need to have constant communication and understand. We got to find that right mentor or coach or trainer. And that doesn't have to be you. It doesn't have to be our best driller. It's got to be the person that wants to give. We have to build. We have to develop the right employee. You know, mentor coaches, I've had a ton. I've had mentors that are younger than me that have taught me things. Jake Fletcher with the Red Horse that I worked with. He's an amazing guy. He has taught me so many leadership aspects, and he's 29. And it's we have these great conversations. And I learned that from Brian Coles at Bayreuth. He would just give me amazing information, and then I'd rap back and forth with him about it, or Ron Peterson, or all those legacy mudmen that just grabbed me and told me everything, you know. And it's I think about when I first started running our first rotary, my Uncle Carl was on the back of the rig with me, and I was so upset that my Uncle Carl is there. He's older than me. He works for the family business part-time. He owns a farm. But why is Carl here and not my dad or one of my brothers? How are they supposed to be learning? You know, and as I get agitated, or my nickname was Brock Smash, you know, not a good nickname for, you know, a 19-year-old. I get agitated or, you know, ready to smash something. He'd ask me a question, or he'd redirect me. And it took me until he passed away really to realize how often that man was coaching me without me even knowing I was being coached. And that's the type of mentors we need. We need somebody that's got your back and isn't going to let you take your hand off, but will also let you, you know, stub your toe or trip. You know, That's what we're going to have. And we got to have that, critical discussions on what worked, what didn't work, create trust, create expertise. So who is that right teacher? Who is that right mentor? Is it our best driller? No, maybe, but project execution, being the test pilot that can make the microsecond decisions, focusing on the whole, doesn't have time to get off the platform and say, this is why I want to lay it out. We could do it right when we get out of the truck, or as we drive to the job site, we could have that bigger discussion about what we need to get done. But let's face it, on many projects, we don't have time to train, and we're understaffed. So we are just grabbing people and we're throwing them in the field. So we got to figure out what we want out of the project execution and success for a project, but also what execution and success we want out of our new hire. When is the right time to train? Pressure to perform. So we start thinking about it. What's optimal success? Choosing an easygoing project, something that I have already had the expectations that we could have done in 2 days, and we're going to take 4 because it's going to be a great time to show the hazards of the job, what could happen, where are we going next, got to trust our process. And we have to have a process. And, as we have 3 drillers in one company or 3 separate companies, we all have a different way of being successful. But within our company, within our training program, together, we have to figure out how to align our best processes and do them together, where that new hire never has a chance to really learn what they need to know to be a productive employee. So we got to involve the entire company into this. Do we train the way we fight, or do we fight the way we train? Patton, right? We have a discussion about, damage to a rig. Let's go out. Let's raise the mast. Let's take a look. Let's see what happened. Are we crowning it out? How are we laying the job out? What is our drilling fluid properties? What is that catastrophic failure that has caused us to break this rig? Let's do it where we're not on a job and resolve it and collaborate together and go, oh, I see what happened. Table bushings aren't going all the way in, and we're wallering this piece out. There's nothing more fun than getting to be on the platform and being a driller. And I truly believe those are the people we're inspiring. Sure, we're going to have people that want to be, full-time helpers. And I really, right now, it's the worst term in our industry is a helper. We could be, field technicians, assistant drillers. Truly, I just want drillers and assistant drillers on a rig. And obviously there are people that don't ever want to be on the platform. It scares them, and they got a CDL and they enjoy running the mud system and they enjoy supporting that rig, but they don't want to drill with it, and we got to realize that, figure out the succession planning and understanding where we're going to go next. We can't just hold back the next group because the seniority in line doesn't want to drill. We need to start training the next. So how do we do that? How do we train a team for growth? Team of trust among all members from office to the field. How often have we heard, hey, how did that pump job go? Oh, well, suddenly in the office, we're talking about something got hung up. They spent a couple extra hours. We don't understand why it took so long to get there and get back. By the time the crew gets in, we're going, what the hell took so long? And it's not building what we need. We need to have those difficult conversations, but first, we need everybody in the room, and we got to default to trust and have a true conversation on what failed. Do we have the right process? Do we have the right tool? Did we forget the 8-inch tongs? And somebody had to run back and get them, and that delayed us. Or we had to run to Lowe's because we forgot something at the supply house. Do we need checklists? We have to create the new process because we just don't have the hands-on technical experience that we had. The farm kids are gone. You know, the men and women that came out of the military, you know, the Vietnam vets that started drilling businesses and had all of this fabrication and different perspectives and will overcome. We don't have that. We have some great men and women from Iraq and Afghanistan that we should be hiring that have a lot of that same work ethic, but we have to think about it. You know, the entire team should know the project scope and where they are in the completion process. All right. No. I don't want Tyler to know at what depth we're at, or he might start talking to the homeowner and have this perspective and screw up what we're going to say today. It's a horrible perspective. When the entire team understands our scope, what our goal for today is, you know, we understand at 8 a.m., we're not going to be back in time for that softball game on Thursday night. Or at fourth rod at 80 feet, you know, we're hoping to screen, you know, 84 to 92. Where's the casing? Where's the, you know, is this a screen hole? Is this an open rock hole? How long should it take us to drill this hole? Why are we on the platform agitated? Today, we should have drilled all clay. We set up to drill clay. And we hit some stringers of sand and we had lost circulation and nobody reacted because they weren't thinking about it, you know? And so it comes back to that tempo of the job, but understanding our entire job scope and the goal for the day. You know, trust is built on project knowledge and execution. Again, trust is built on project knowledge and execution. We can't just say, you don't need to know this today. We can't be worried about somebody learning everything that we know about our business in 6 months and going off and starting their own business. Sure, that happens, but our company should be strong enough that that's not what we want. And we're building a collaborative team together. Clearly define the job process that allows for accountability. Hey, Billy, that pump job should take 6 hours. It's going to take you 45 minutes to get there. Maybe an hour with traffic to get back. What do you think? Well, you know, we might have to take down the fence to get the hoist, you know, backed over the hole a different direction. Or last time we were there were some power lines that kind of spooked us and we kept trying to move around. We need to know what their fears are so we can go, hey, I've had the same job for years. This is how we should do it. You know, this is the expectations. Then we can say, when a pump job takes 10 hours, why didn't you call me at hour number 5 and say things are bad and I need some advice? You know, where are we going from here? That's how we can get that accountability. The only unknowns on these projects should be the subsurface. We need to create processes. We need to be prepared. We're in a first world nation. We're all pretty good at drilling in our areas. So we should have logs. We should have expectations. They should have logs on site. If we know we're going to hit lost circulation or a situation like that's going to happen, let's be prepared. Let's know those elements when we go into the job. Sure, there's going to be times that doesn't work out. That time that you hit a chain link fence at 30 feet, because the greatest generation, the builder generation, my grandpa also buried a lot of shit. And, you know, we're going to hit that stuff sometimes. And that's going to be an X factor that we can't get into. Defining the processes promotes growth by building confidence within the organization and the field. Absolutely. Billy knows how he's going to back in on that job and get up over the hole, and he's able to pull that pump, and he comes back and he's done it in 3.5 hours. We made money. We need to tell him a great job or her a great job. And we need to talk about what we can do next time to make it even better. And that's really what we need, is that growth of confidence, that us discovering the unknown, standing on a platform and going, I didn't think we'd make a well today, and we did. That learning curve has to be shorter now than what it was. The goal is to set drillers and teams up for safe, efficient project completion. We shouldn't have to repeat the same mistakes we made last year, 5 years, 10 years ago. We shouldn't have the same repetitive stress injury from swinging pipe wrenches that my uncle had. It's comes back to us working smarter and understanding processes and realizing we're not superheroes. We have broken bodies for bad choices. So what's my game plan for success when I start to develop a driller or a driller assistant or a new hire that's going to be pulling pumps? Having that kickoff meeting until I know they know the right answers. Having the checklist. What is our project design? What is the best practices and method? And maybe they came from another state or they came from another company, which is really happens a lot. But at the same time, it's our ways, our processes. We can collaborate on better ways, but we don't want to take bad practices into the field and regress our training process or our expectations of having a good, competent person. So we outline those daily tasks, including timeline. I can't believe how often we don't talk about how long this should take. Now we get on this big municipal job and we have an engineer, we have a customer, we have maybe a hydrogeologist that's coming in and out that has expectations. We've put this Gantt chart together. We have this idea of how long the job should take, and it's not. And they're just looking at the days tick off. Working for the military, that was one of the hardest expectations was, well, how long should it take to drill a 2,000-foot hole? In the middle of Africa, where we've never drilled before. Oh, by the way, if it was easy to get water there, there'd be 5 other African drilling companies that we'd consider hiring. It's probably going to be pretty hard. And that 90-day timeline might not be it, because we are discovering the unknown, but we need to know what is our goal for today and when we're falling backwards on our timeline. And that comes back to incorporating the whole team. Hey, how long should it take to run, this casing today? Well, Brock, the 12-inch casing elevators suck. And every time we get it down, we got to grab the hammer. We got to pop the pin out with the hammer, and it's taking up time. We need to come up with something else. Or, hey, last time we had the welder out, the lugs are too low or they're too high. All things that we instantly on the job site would have looked at that and went, well, that's going to make our job difficult today. Or, hey, get idiot back out here and we're going to change this right now. Our people get on site and expect that we wanted it that way, and they're just going to overcome it. And there's nothing more expensive than time to us. What is our goal to completion? And then when we get close to completion, what does that project wrap up look like? From that small residential of us making sure, the flower beds don't get smoked as we're walking in and out and we're dragging wire and those things, to, what are we doing with all of this drilling fluid on this big reversal? So what have I learned training with the military? I've learned we can build good, competent, good decision-making operators that are starting to be drillers in 2 to 3 months. By week number 6, they are making really good decisions on a 50K and or the V2000 with the Army, or the SRAMs that the Seabees have been running. They're able to operate those machines. However, there's a level of military discipline there, right? So as we teach it, that's what it is. It's not like being a test pilot cowboy where we have a way, but we also have a way of Brock smash. So what I've learned, we can have great, safe projects with, a clean slate of men and women that are excited to provide water so that the FOBs can continue to protect people, or so we can support a village, or all of the great wells they've done all over the world providing water, where I get a FaceTime or a Zoom and we talk about uphill velocities or switching over to reverse or running foam. We have these discussions 2 time zones away, and they trust the decision we're going to do and we're going to execute. It's not like I want you to run a 40 vis. You're going to run some, PHPA because we're going to hit this clay. And you get out to the job site and your drilling fluids are all messed up and they're thick as heck. And you go, Brian, what did you do? He goes, well, it was drilling so easy on water. I just kept going, man. It's the discipline of the military has made it so, we have a plan. We stick to the plan. The plan is up for discussion until all the troops leave the tent. The plan is up for discussion until all our men and women get in our trucks. We head to the job sites for that day, and that's what we have to get to is the discussion aspect. They'll do anything, including get a funnel viscosity on foam, which was fantastic to watch the lieutenant try to figure out how that was going to work because he skipped the drilling fluids day. They're focused on success. Their stakes are high. If I screw up and they leave with the wrong sub for when they're going to switch over to that 16-inch bit, I just endangered men and women to go back to a primary base to get that. So we double check, triple check, have great checklists on what we're going to send out there. The mission's everything. And then if when I'm teaching this and I got some of those great men and women in my class, we laugh about military grade because we all think military grade's what we want. But sadly, sometimes military grade's not driller proof. It's not that piece of equipment we need. My lessons with training civilians, including me being a fat bearded civilian and not in the military, older brother and father and grandfathers were. Safety is tribal, right? Safety is it. Dang, that was close. Probably shouldn't do that again. Safety is I'm only going to be under this suspended load for a minute. It's monkey see, monkey do. Reach down, grab that chunk of clay out of that conductor pipe, get caught somehow, tears his shoulder. 18 months out, not to mention workman's comp claim and the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Are they fully engaged? Are they here for a paycheck? How are we inspiring them? They'll absolutely, we get the right new hire, they'll do anything. Hey, hold my beverage. I'll be right back. This is what you want me to do today. You want me to climb this mast with no fall protection? You want me to jump down in this pit and we don't have a air quality monitor? They don't know any better. And it's how we end up on that other aspect. We get a great new hire and then we end up getting them hurt. Their success is based on accountability and expectations. There is no court martial or there is no you're stuck at a fob and until you get water, everybody is bathing using water bottles. They always think we can finish tomorrow. Let's think about that, right? Forgot the 8-inch elevators. Well, we have all of this other stuff we got to do. We got to tear down. We got to pull this other stuff out. Then we'll have those and we'll do it tomorrow. And it's an hour and a half's worth of work and we've lost that day. And we have to have that discussion of expectations. Mission is not everything. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We have that smartphone that makes us dumb when they see a Facebook post of their girlfriend going out to Applebee's with her former boyfriend just to catch up, or that Twitter post or whatever it is. It's a great distraction and it can really kill morale. And again, that comes back to looking somebody in the eye and go, hey, are you okay today? What is going on? So creating trust. I got the opportunity to work on this big pipeline cathodic project. And as a water well driller, geothermal, I've worked mining. Cathodic was something that I hadn't been part of. And for you that have worked on it, you'll know there's some jobs that, you work for a Kinder Morgan or an Enbridge or a Nicor, and the expectations of safety is pretty big deal. And what's going to happen and how we're going to execute and the operator's qualifications. And they will say in the first meeting that you, the subcontractor of the subcontractor, are the person that's going to hit our pipeline, because they've decided third-party strikes are what happened. So I end up on this project, and my driller's 27. I'm 37. And I go, man, I have to be able to go to these other sites. I have to be able to keep us the next job ahead. I can't be here holding his hand. And he's a good driller, but I was always his wingman right there. Hey, let's slow down rotation. Look at your flow. You know, we'd been doing that. I had to trust him. And this project was a high profile project because the previous contractor had gotten thrown off. It was a job in the suburbs of Chicago, and a lady jogging by with a poodle and a bracelet that could pay off my student loans ran her poodle through the drilling mud. And then immediately the city commissioner and everybody in that area was there. And that company said, drilling's messy. We're going to be muddy. You want a borehole and a cathodic anode here, or do you want a picnic? And it was the wrong approach. So we got a chance to quote the job. And I show up and they explain the story, and I go, okay, we're going to map this entire job. Well, what's that going to cost? And I go, it's going to cost you another drill contractor if we can't map the entire job, because we're not going to set up to fail. 17 grand worth of mats, brought them in, laid everything out. Job, we have diapers, we have straw. We are set up to not let a drop of drilling fluid hit the ground and to keep the job as pristine as possible. And we know that everybody's watching. So we get drilling, and we hit some clay, and it boots off, and immediately mud is coming over the conductor. And I have just pulled back in the job from looking at the next job, and it's chaos. It's absolutely not what's supposed to happen. And I jump out of that truck and I go, what the? And I stop myself. And he shuts the mud pump off, and he jumps over and he goes, you can get up on the platform. You can take over. I go, nope. I go, what happened? And he goes, you know what? We built the mud exactly the way you said. We were drilling. It was drilling great. And I booted off. We got clay ribbons coming out. Now we got mud. And I was trying to hurry to get it back, but we're making a mess. And I had a moment right there where I could either be my inner driller and think, if I was on that platform that moment, I would have made the right decisions. We wouldn't have made a mess. We wouldn't have been in trouble. Or I can be the guy that's helping progress my company to the next level by trusting that I can build this man into who I need him to be, the good decision maker. And so we got the vac truck over there. We cleaned it up. We jumped back up there. We got the ribbons out. We started drilling. And we went to dinner that evening, and he goes, hey, thanks. I go, what's up, Brian? And he goes, no, I was expecting to get my butt kicked. I should have gotten my butt kicked. I screwed up. But instead, you showed we could work through it. And any job I'd been on beyond that job, and we worked Minnesota and Iowa and Illinois and Ohio and Indiana and Michigan, he'd call me the moment a situation would go bad, and we'd talk through it, or he'd text me. And we trusted that I wasn't going to channel my inner driller, because I can't. I have to be beyond that. I have to be business developing. I have to be showing that we can build this company bigger. And for me to think, if I was there, we wouldn't have, the tongs wouldn't have slipped, and we wouldn't have dropped the pump back down the hole, or those type of situations. We just have to resolve what's going to happen. So we got done with that job, and it snowed in the middle of it. And there were a whole bunch of different things that happened, but we got the rest of the contract for the way that job looked the following Tuesday when we pulled off. And it was a great experience. And we continued that business because we were able to overcome our intercompany stuff and meet the expectations of the customer. And neither guy on site was, older than 30. So, we think about after action reviews. We have to have them. We have to have a discussion. We need to know what happened, but everybody has to default to trust. So that moment of me channeling my inner driller wasn't right. But in the conference room or over donuts, when we get back to the shop, we can have a harder, more stern, I'm disappointed discussion than we can right there in the moment. We need to resolve the issue and move on. And so I got these from the military 10, 11 years ago is when I first started using after action reviews. And it's an easy system. What was expected to happen today? What was our goals? What expectations did we give our men and women in the field? What really happened? Why do we keep forgetting the 8-inch elevators on the floor? Shouldn't they just always be in the service truck? They're in the way, they're heavy. We can't throw grout in the back of the service truck because it pokes a hole in the bag. What are the reasons? Why did it happen? Again, just poking holes in the bend seal bags, and then we got a big mess back there. And then you jump our behind because we got this big slick, muddy thing in the back of our service truck. How do we do to prevent it again? What can we prevent? What piece of equipment, what tooling, what can we invest in our people in order for them, if it's training or whatever it is, what will it take for them to be successful? What went well today? If we're going to have that difficult conversation and we're going to talk about that, we need to also ask what went well, or, hey, great job on this previous job. We got to become warmer and fuzzier, and what can we improve on collaboratively? And you look at, there's a 20K with Jeffco when I was working with them and the service guy. It was the first mud rotary job he'd ever been on. He was our CDL driver. He saw this big grassy area. We were going to drill this humanitarian well, and he just was going to circle that 6x6 right in that big grassy area, and we'd be over the hole. And you can see we buried it, and we lost a day getting a tow truck driver out there and fighting that. And you can see up in the top right-hand corner, a good productive water well and the success we had there. And then we need to be looking at our people's hands, the way they get out of the truck, all of these things, and knowing if we're taking care of them. It shouldn't be a rite of passage for me to grab the DeWalt drill and relieve the pressure under my fingernail. It's one of those things, again, we're just one more step. And this isn't a safety discussion today. This is a retaining discussion. But if our people aren't safe, if they're not doing things quite the right way, electrical tape and blue paper towel is not a first aid kit. We need to see that and have a discussion and figure out how to stop that situation before it becomes a liability situation. So creating those teachable lessons, all project experience, whether good or bad, creates teachable lessons. What happened today? There's my project manager buried the F-150. Another team completed a water well that we really didn't expect to get done with two geologists and a geologist and a hydrogeologist asking every question. If I wish I could parent by iPad while I'm driving down the road with my children in the back going, are we there yet? I wish I could pacify by iPad sometimes with my engineers and my geologists. Hey, go play Angry Birds and we'll come get you when there's something really cool that's a change. But we're sharing knowledge and they'll share knowledge with us. And so having them there asking those questions also allows us to know, what does our customer or our engineers need from us and what do we need from them? How do we distribute those lessons? Because it's going to determine how our next project turns out. We keep forgetting the elevators, or we keep, somebody's smashing their hand. We need to have a discussion before it turns into that 4-hour wrap up, turns into a day and a half because we had to run to the emergency room and get stitches. The great drillers, the good drillers, the competent drillers of our organization have a responsibility to prevent our new people, our new drillers, from having the same failures. Maybe we don't grab 3 bags of Portland. There's no reason to have a tough man contest on site. There's plenty of time to do stuff. If we have all this energy later, why don't we reorganize the shop when we get back or something? You know, we have to have the discussions and mitigate those risks and teach what we want our company to be. This is Patrick Leccioni. Fantastic. Restart it. We got a couple minutes.
Interest in teams really stems from my childhood, because when I was a kid, my dad used to come home from work frustrated by his company. Now, he was a great salesman, God rest his soul, and a great guy, but he was always complaining about the way he was treated at work and how dysfunctional things were. And I didn't know what that meant when I was a kid. But later on, when I got my first job as a consultant, I was dealing with things like strategy and marketing and other operational issues in business. And I found myself distracted by this issue of teamwork, because I thought, man, if we could get people working in teams, really working together well, it would change everything from the way we dealt with customers to the bottom line and to the way people enjoyed and felt fulfilled in their work. You see, I've come to the conclusion that teamwork truly is the greatest competitive advantage that any group of people can have. And it's not that complicated. It's pretty simple, but it is hard because it requires a lot of work over time and a lot of courage. I think it's actually an intentional, strategic decision we have to make. And by making that decision, we'll be much more likely to accept the cost and the sacrifice that it requires. And that will make it possible for us to encounter the full power of teamwork. You know, if I could say anything to leaders of teams, it would be this. One day you're going to retire from your job and working. And most people that want to retire think about doing other good things in life, serving people, doing missionary work or helping the poor, something wonderful. And that's great. I want you to realize that while you're leading this team, you are having a bigger impact on people's lives than you may ever have. You change the way they go home at night, the way they treat their family and their friends and strangers on a bus. You affect their self-esteem, and that's going to carry over throughout their life. So let's not wait till we retire to realize the impact we can have on people's lives. And your ability to build a good team and to help them feel a part of that team might very well be the most altruistic thing you ever do.
So we just got a couple more slides. To maintain that ideal player, these are the discussions I'm having with my teams. You can have whatever type of what works best for you and the order you want for our new hires to develop into a first-year employee, to a 5-year, to a 10-year. It really takes understanding what's in here for them just the same as they understand what's in here for us. And, it starts with asking these questions. Do you enjoy what you do? They may say, yeah, when I'm not with Dave on a project because Dave yells at us all day long and it's just not an enjoyable time. Okay, well, we need to figure out why he's getting yelled at, and we need to figure out what we can do. Oh yeah, we know Dave's crusty, but he's one of our best performers. That's great. Let's figure out who Dave needs to work with so that we can continue to have our people we need and our Dave. Do you feel safe? Yeah, until we run those 12-inch elevators and we're always hammering on them. It's a great opening question to find out what we can do for a process better. Having them understand we're invested in them, so they'll be invested in us. What do you want to learn next? And this is a great open-ended question. It comes to, I'd like to run the rig. I'd like to, go to one of the pump schools. I'd like to come to the association show and sit in on the classes. Or it could be, I got to make enough money so I can get my wife a more reliable vehicle. Because that's the one that floored me, was the gentleman that was sitting we were sitting in the shop on a pallet of Benseal, and I was going through these, and I go, "What do you want next?" And he goes, "The most important thing to me right now is a car for my wife. She needs to be able to get to work. We leave early mornings, and I'm worried she's going to be broke down alongside the road." And it, we helped him. We figured it out. We looked into what it was going to take, and we had an invested employee who continued to work for the company. It just came right down to, for us, it's keeping the doors open and making sure our customers are satisfied, and that our family is fed, and that we're continuing this awesome industry. But for our people, they got lives too, and they got things going on that is a perspective that we need to take in. And if we don't have that one-on-one time, maybe a crew's getting in late, or they're out of town and you're just thinking about them. These new generations, we can call, we can text, we can Snapchat, we can FaceTime, we can email, we can leave a note in the ADP email check stub, that says, "Hey, great job on that last project," or, "We're planning on being wrapped up by noon on Wednesday of Thanksgiving week, so that you guys can go off snowmobiling, or, whatever you need to do." And then absolutely, in this crazy time of COVID, after work discussions, we see somebody that doesn't seem right. Why is Dave crusty? We need to dig deep. Somebody on the job site was doing great, and suddenly their attitude changed. "Hey, what's going on? I just got a text message. Grandma's got chest pains, and they're taking her to their emergency room." That person is no longer on our job site mentally. They're physically there, but mentally gone. And we either need to know if they can get their head in the game, or we need to figure out how to accommodate them. Those are the things. And the after work discussions can be pizza, axe throwing. If it's an adult beverage, I like craft beer. It's 98% water. We need good quality water for craft beer. It really comes down to finding the time to decompress with them, so everybody knows that we're colleagues. And, obviously we have people that don't want to go out after work, or don't care for that, but it needs to be there. It needs to be something that we can have a low stake conversation, that if we need to insert something that goes, "Why did it take a day and a half to do a 1-day hookup? What went wrong? How did the jack get bent on, the hoist?" Full amnesty here. Just let's have the discussion so that we can fix it, because it's costing us money in multiple ways. That's what I got, ladies and gentlemen. Questions, comments, throw something at the computer. Maybe I can only see lights, so maybe there's nobody in there. It's been fun talking by myself.
Anybody has a question? Speaking of microphone.
I'm trying to stand on my tippy toes, but I still just have the same angle. It's not virtual. I'm just kidding. Hey, everybody. This is the weirdest presentation I've ever done. I definitely know I'm fat, but now I'm really fat on camera. So
I think it worked well.
Well, if there's no questions, I really appreciate you letting me present Wyoming Groundwater. I want to come back next year. I'm sorry for the emergency that came up. I'm in Michigan, so I think I know what cold is, but I'm sure if I get out there to Casper, I'll really know what cold is, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
He said most of them hate Zoom, but you did a great job.
What's the dumb driller? The dumb driller in me just walked closer to the monitor like I'd hear you better. Well, excellent. If you guys end up having questions or comments, you can find me, on the Driller, on Facebook. There's my cell number and email. Shoot me a text day or night. Most people do. And I'm happy to collaborate with you. And the best part is I get to learn just as much as I get to share. And that's something in our industry we just need to do more of is, sharing how we overcome some of this crazy stuff and, how we can do better. Well, excellent. I ended with 5 minutes to spare. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Brock.